At my engagement dinner, my fiancé's mother said loudly, "She's just after your money." He stayed silent. I left before dessert was served. 3 years later, when they saw my face on the cover of Forbes, the waiter said someone at table 5 just fainted because my name's Jessica. I grew up in Springfield, Ohio. The kind of place where people keep their heads down, work hard, and pray the bills get paid on time. My parents were blue-collar through and through. Mom taught second grade for 30 years, and Dad hauled freight across the Midwest. They raised me to be independent, to fight for what I wanted, and I always took that seriously. I wasn't born into money. I didn't have a safety net. I was grinding through college while working at a diner and doing remote gigs just to scrape by. Every dollar counted. Every opportunity, I had to claw for. So, when I met Brandon, it felt like I'd finally found a break. He was polished, Ivy League educated, the son of a big-shot real estate developer in Cincinnati. His family had the kind of money that didn't just open doors, it owned the buildings the doors were in. We met at a networking mixer downtown. I was 24, fresh out of school, still figuring out how to navigate the corporate world. He was 28, wearing an expensive watch and talking about property acquisitions like it was nothing. He was smooth, charming, the kind of guy who could make you feel like you were the only one in the room. I fell hard. We started dating, and for a while, it was good. I mean, really good. Weekend trips to Chicago, dinners at places I couldn't have afforded in my wildest dreams, and long nights talking about the future. He made me feel like we were building something together. But looking back, there were cracks I didn't want to see. His mother, Margaret, hated me from the start. I could feel it in the way she'd look me up and down, like I was a knockoff purse she wouldn't be caught dead carrying. Every time we were in the same room, she'd make these little comments, "Oh, you work there? That's cute," or "Your parents must be so proud, given their background." It was constant, subtle, like a steady drip of poison. And Brandon? He'd just smile awkwardly, change the subject, or sometimes just laugh it off. I told myself it didn't matter. That love would win. That we'd be different. I was dead wrong. The night it all blew up was our engagement dinner. Brandon had planned this whole thing at one of those high-end steakhouses downtown. Private room, white tablecloths, waiters in suits, the whole 9 yards. His family was there, Margaret, his dad Richard, his brother Grant and his wife. A couple of Brandon's friends too, all from the same circle, private school, country club memberships, trust funds. I felt out of place the moment I walked in, like I was a kid who snuck into the grown-ups' party. Dinner started off okay. Small talk, toasts, a few jokes about wedding planning. I tried to keep up, but every time I opened my mouth, I could feel Margaret's eyes on me, sharp as knives. Then, right as the entrees were cleared and we were waiting for dessert, it happened. She leaned back in her chair, glass of wine in hand, and said it. Loud enough that the whole table, hell, maybe the whole restaurant, could hear. "She's just after your money, Brandon. I hope you realize that." Silence. You could hear a pin drop. I felt my stomach drop, like I'd been punched in the gut. My ears started ringing, and I swear, the whole room started spinning. I looked at Brandon, waiting, begging, for him to say something. Anything. To stand up for me, to tell her to stop, to tell her she was wrong. But he didn't. He stared down at his plate like it was the most interesting thing in the world. He just sat there. Not a word. Not even a glance in my direction. The man I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, and he couldn't even look at me. That moment broke something in me. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, my hands shaking under the table. I looked around, at his mother, smug and satisfied. At his father, looking like he wished he were anywhere else. At his friends, trying not to make eye contact. And I knew that I didn't belong there. I never had. So I stood up. The chair scraped loud across the floor, and everyone stared. My voice shook when I spoke, but I didn't care. "Enjoy your dinner," I said. "That's all." Then I turned and walked out. My heels echoed across the floor, and the second I stepped outside, I felt like I could finally breathe. He didn't follow me. Not that night, not ever. 3 days later, he sent a text. A text. Not even a phone call. It said, "Hey. Maybe we should talk when you've calmed down." Calmed down. Like I was the problem. Like his mother humiliating me in front of everyone was no big deal, and I was being hysterical for reacting. I didn't respond. I packed up my stuff from his apartment, left the key on the counter, and walked away. Blocked his number. Blocked all of them. That should have been the end of it. I told myself I was done. I poured everything into my work. My side hustle that had barely been paying the bills. I put in 80-hour weeks, learned everything I could about marketing, logistics, customer acquisition. I took risks, burned through my savings, maxed out 2 credit cards, but I refused to quit. Year 1 was hell. But by year 2, things started to change. My business, an online platform for handmade local goods, started getting traction. A feature in a niche blog. Then a spot on a local morning show. Then national media. Investors. Big investors. By the 3rd year, I was negotiating partnerships with major retailers, and we hit 8 figures in revenue. The day I saw my face on the cover of Forbes, I cried. Not because I needed their validation, but because it felt like proof that I was enough. That I'd done this on my own, no handouts, no family money. Fast forward to last month. I was back in Cincinnati for a conference. My team wanted to celebrate, so we booked dinner at that same steakhouse. I didn't realize it until we were seated, but there we were, same place, same white tablecloths, same air of old money and power. And at table 5, I saw them. Brandon. Margaret. Richard. Grant. His wife. All of them. It felt like a scene from a movie. They hadn't changed much, except Margaret looked older. Thinner. Tired. Brandon looked smaller, somehow. Not the golden boy I remembered. He glanced up, and when his eyes met mine, his face drained of color. He nudged Margaret, whispered something, and she turned, following his gaze. Her mouth actually fell open. A young waiter, probably a college kid, came over to our table, holding a menu, eyes wide. "Sorry to bother you, but are you the woman from Forbes?" he whispered, almost starstruck. I smiled and nodded. He grinned like he'd just met a celebrity, then rushed off. A minute later, I saw him whispering at table 5. Margaret's face twisted, her lips trembling. She tried to stand, but her knees buckled. The waiter caught her just as she started to collapse. Someone shouted for help. Margaret had fainted. The whole room stared as they helped her into a chair, fanning her, offering water. Paramedics were called. It was chaos. I didn't say a word. Just sat there, sipping my wine, watching it all unfold. I never expected to see them again. I never expected that after all the years, they'd see me like this. On top. On my own. Without them. And I'll be honest, it felt damn good. After that night at the steakhouse, I thought maybe that was it. Like fate had let me have my moment, and the story was closed. But I was wrong. So wrong. About 2 weeks later, I got a message. A long, rambling email from Brandon. The subject line just said, "Can we talk?" I didn't even open it at first. Just seeing his name pop up made my stomach twist. But curiosity got the better of me, and late that night, when I couldn't sleep, I opened it. He started with, "I know I messed up." Typical. He went on about how things hadn't been easy for him. How his dad's company was in trouble, how they'd lost a big deal last year, how Margaret's health had been bad, some heart issue. How he'd been under a lot of pressure. And then the kicker, I've been thinking about us. About what we had. I miss you. I was an idiot that night. I should have stood up for you. I see that now. Maybe we could grab coffee and talk? I'd love to hear about your business. I'm really proud of you. Proud of me. Like I was his kid sister who won the science fair. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. Just left it sitting there, like a dead thing I didn't want to touch. Then, about a week after that, I started getting LinkedIn requests. From Grant. From Brandon's dad, Richard. Even from some of the people who had been at that dinner. Like suddenly, they were all so interested in what I was doing. A couple even sent messages, asking if I'd be open to a quick chat about potential collaboration. That's when it hit me. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because they needed something. Their empire was crumbling, and I'd built something they wanted a piece of. It made me sick. But also, it lit a fire in me. I started digging. Quietly, carefully, I asked around. I still had contacts in Cincinnati, and people talk. Turns out, Brandon's dad's company had been hemorrhaging money for over a year. Bad investments, lawsuits, a messy deal that went south in Chicago. They'd laid off half their staff. Their last big commercial property, an office park outside Columbus, was barely breaking even. And now, they were sniffing around me. I also found out something else. Brandon had been quietly shopping around for a strategic partner to bail them out. My company fit the bill perfectly. They wanted my platform, my customer base, my connections. They wanted me to save them. The audacity was unreal. So I made a decision. I had my lawyer draft a formal offer. A buyout proposal, my company acquiring theirs. Complete control. No partnership. No joint venture. Full acquisition. And I sent it. Directly to Richard. CC'd Brandon and Margaret, just for good measure. The silence after that was deafening. 2 days later, I got a reply. Not from Richard. From Margaret. It was short. Just 2 sentences. You think you can take our company? Over my dead body. That was the exact moment I knew this wasn't over. That they weren't going to go down without a fight. And honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted them to. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't just the girl from the wrong side of the tracks, the one who didn't belong at their table. I was the woman holding the cards. And I wasn't about to fold. Margaret's email wasn't the last I heard from them. In fact, it was just the start of the storm. About a week after I sent the acquisition offer, I got served. A formal lawsuit. Margaret, Brandon, Richard, and the whole family company were suing me for unfair business practices, claiming I'd used insider knowledge from my relationship with Brandon to undermine their company. It was laughable, really. I hadn't set foot in their offices, I hadn't seen a single document of theirs. I had my own business, built from the ground up, and they knew it. But they were desperate, and desperation makes people do stupid things. They tried to bury me in legal fees, hoping I'd settle or back off. But what they didn't know was that I wasn't the same girl who walked out of that steakhouse 3 years ago. I wasn't scared anymore. I hired the best legal team money could buy. I countersued for defamation, harassment, and interference with my business. And then, I did something I knew would twist the knife deeper than any lawsuit. I called a press conference. It was a calculated move, and I didn't make it lightly. But if they wanted to drag me into the mud, I was going to make damn sure the whole world saw who was throwing dirt. At the press conference, I laid it all out. How I started my company from scratch. The years of hard work, the late nights, the risk, the debt. How I had never used a dime of their family money. How they had tried to tear me down at my own engagement dinner. How their son, their golden boy, had stood by and done nothing. And now, when their empire was crumbling, they came crawling back, and when I wouldn't play savior, they tried to ruin me. I didn't hold back. I was measured, professional, but firm. And I named names. The media ate it up. Headlines ran for days. The public loved a story about the scrappy underdog woman who rose from nothing to build a multi-million-dollar company. And the arrogant old money family who tried to destroy her. But it didn't stop there. Turns out, the lawsuit they filed opened up their books to scrutiny. A few sharp reporters dug deeper, and soon, the real cracks in their company came to light. Shady accounting. Unpaid contractors. Allegations of workplace discrimination. A former employee came forward with a whistleblower complaint. The IRS got involved. Margaret had her name plastered across every business headline in the country, not as a respected matriarch of a real estate empire, but as the figurehead of a crumbling, mismanaged disaster. Brandon tried to distance himself, but it was too late. Investors pulled out. Creditors called in debts. Within 6 months, the company filed for bankruptcy. They lost everything. The office building. The properties. Their homes. And the final twist? When the auction listings went up, I bought the steakhouse. The very place where it all started. I didn't even want the restaurant, not really. I just wanted to own it. To walk in there, sit at table 5, and know that I was the one who made it happen. The first night I went back, I ordered a glass of wine, same vintage Margaret had been drinking the night she tried to humiliate me, and sat quietly, looking around. That's when I saw him. Brandon. He was sitting at the bar, looking washed out, like a man who'd aged 10 years in the last 3. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie askew. He looked up, saw me, and I swear, I could see the shame in his eyes. He opened his mouth like he was about to say something, but I didn't give him the chance. I stood up, left $100 tip on the table, and walked out without a word. Because here's the thing, revenge isn't about the moment you get to say, I told you so. It's about knowing, deep down, that you survived what they tried to do to you. And they didn't. I didn't just survive. I thrived. They lost everything. And I built it all myself. That's the best kind of revenge. And I wouldn't change a damn thing.